Hey everyone, thank you for listening to another episode of Spoiler Force Podcast. You can find more episodes on Apple Podcasts, SoundCloud, or YouTube. Don't forget to subscribe and make sure to follow Spoiler Force Podcast on Facebook.
This is Tony Santiago, and you're listening to Spoiler Force Podcast.
Alright, so this is episode 51 of Spoiler Force Podcast. My name is Ricky. Thank you for tuning in. So this week's guest is someone that I'm very excited to have. I've bought many of the prints that this artist has made. So let me introduce the guest here, Tony Santiago. Thank you so much for being on the podcast.
Oh, my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, funny thing is, right before we started, we were both having technical issues, so I'm very happy that this is able to work.
Yeah, I thought I was going to be the one that was going to hold this up, and I'm actually glad you gave me a few extra minutes, so it worked out.
As I was saying the intro too, I remember when I first bought the very first print that I've seen of yours. It was back at, I believe, 2014 of Wizard World in Chicago.
Okay.
My friends and I, or my friend Tanya, she won like a free one-day pass, and we're from Detroit, Michigan. So she was like, "Hey, Rick, let's go to Wizard World on a Saturday. It's gonna be a one-day trip kind of thing." And so we went to Wizard World, got there, got our tickets, and then that was actually like my first convention that I've been to, and so experiencing just like the atmosphere there, and then I just I'm a big Artist Alley freak, so whenever I go there to any convention, whether it's like an anime con or comic book con, going through Artist Alley is such a huge kryptonite for me, because I go there and I see all these amazing local or even like international artists there, and I can't help myself. So, and your booth is huge. It's definitely a standout booth, and because of the height of what your prints are and how you set it up, which is definitely very recognizable. So to any listeners who go to conventions, Tony Santiago's booth is like a tower pretty much, and you see all these prints of like pop culture icons to movies to Marvel to DC characters, and it's definitely a standout. So I went there. We were just leaving that convention, and I stopped by your booth. I don't think you were there, but either your wife or someone that works with you was there, and I saw the Harley Quinn Jester print, and that one really caught my eye. So that was the first one I bought.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so I still have that till this day. It's definitely something that's like a momentum of that trip was that print, and and then like the year after that, in 2015, at Motor City Comic Con, that was the first time I got like VIPs for that convention, and that's where I met you the first time there. And, And I bought like it was that year, it was hot. I think one of the hot prints that you had were the Flash and the Reverse Flash prints, how they were like mirrored off of each other. And so I bought those, and then like when I first bought those, everyone was asking me like, "Where'd you get those prints at?" Because those are so cool. Because like season 1 of the Flash was just like wrapping up too, so like that show was so hot. So everyone was asking me, "Where'd you get those prints?" And then I was like, "Yeah, the big booth down there. You'll see it." And
that show is always a good time.
Yeah, and like not just the Flash ones too, but like your collection of the CW stuff too. You have like the Supergirl art, the Green Arrow stuff. So like a lot of people were into that, and then like. As I'm recollecting all these memories, I realize how many times I've been to your booth.
Okay.
Because like, there was one convention, my buddies and I, my buddies bought us tickets for Heroes and Villains Fan Fest. I believe it was 2018, and I met you there again. But this time I introduced all my friends to your booth, and they were like, "Who is this guy, Rick?" I'm like, "Dude, I bought this guy's prints before. They're all like 11 by 17s. They're all like super well done, and like you can get like the HD ones, like the black and white ones you have."
Yeah.
And so like they were really into those ones. So we went there, we looked at your booth. I met you again, and then that time all my buddies, they bought like a bunch of Avengers stuff with the Thor prints, Jon Snow, Khaleesi. I bought the Zoom print to go with the Flash stuff. And I bought like your Oliver Queen one, like with Oliver Queen, Supergirl, and Barry Allen without their masks. I bought those ones. So it was just like a good time, going there and just showing your artwork to my buddies. Now they all love your stuff now too. Like, and shout out to my buddy T. He's an artist too, or he's starting to become an artist, and he loves the way how you do your art, because you do it like pencil styled art. and so he's doing like portraits and stuff like that too. So like he's learning as he's seeing your art, because like I think you just recently posted up your Scottie Pippen art and your Michael Jordan art.
I did that one. Yeah, I did. I did the Scottie I finished today. The Jordan I finished I guess about a week ago or so. I'm a Bulls fan, a huge Bulls fan, and the Last Dance documentary is coming up Sunday. So I just got all caught up and wanted to do some artwork that kind of commemorated it.
Did you start off with sports art first, and then you went to comic books and stuff?
I did. I used to do. I'm out of Chicago, so Chicago's a big sports town, and I didn't really go to school for illustration. So I kind of did everything on my own. So if I ever learned a new skill, if I ever learned markers or colored pencils or pastels, anything like that, I would practice doing sports art, because that was just the subject matter I was most interested in. After some time, I built up enough of a collection, and I went to a couple of sports conventions and made prints. I did a couple of Chicago Blackhawks fan conventions and did pretty well there, and just continued doing that. I did that a couple of years. It kind of dried up. I found out that sports fans and collectors weren't necessarily fans of artwork. They were fans of memorabilia. So if a print of mine of Michael Jordan, nobody really wanted a drawing of Michael Jordan. They wanted an autograph. I didn't really satisfy that need with my artwork. But then I started going to Wizard World, the Chicago Wizard World. I used to go with my son, and I, just like you were saying, I would spend practically the entire day in Artist Alley just watching these guys draw. And this was back, it wasn't that busy. Like, you could find J. Scott Campbell just sitting there drawing, and he would just be there represent. He doesn't do that anymore, but at the time he was just there at his booth, or at his table rather, just drawing, working on whatever sketches he was doing, and you could talk to him. And I was just fascinated by that whole thing. I just saw there that people loved artwork. There was an appreciation for it. And I came home, told my wife, I'm like, next year I need to be on the other side of that table. I just want to go sit down and be part of it for a weekend just to see what it feels like. And that's what I did. And that first year I went, I think it was maybe 2012, 2011. One of those was my first year at Wizard World. And I sat there with sports art. I didn't have any of the pop culture stuff that you see at my booth now. So it was a lot of fun. And it's just kind of grown from there.
It's crazy to see how you transition to that, right? Because now with conventions being so big now, before this pandemic hit, but like everyone is getting into pop culture. It's becoming more mainstream now with comic books and TV shows and stuff like that. And I think that's a great way that you found your alley and to like show off your artwork and to make your revenue with the current like art that you have now. Now, are you still doing everything by hand, or is it more digital now?
It's a combination. So when I did my sports stuff, that was all traditional art. That was all markers and colored pencil and pastels for the most part. And then I started to, I was kind of forced into, because of, I had my daughter and I would spend time taking her to her ballet lessons. And then I had what's called a mod book at the time. I don't know if they still make them, but I would take that with me. And while she was in her classes, I would just sit there at a Starbucks or in the car or whatever and just kind of practice drawing on this mod book. That's how I kind of started teaching myself how to paint digitally. And it just kind of grew from there. That first Wizard World convention, I just had my sports stuff, and I kind of saw what other artists were doing and what was being sold. And so I was determined to have some content that was more relevant to that marketplace. So the next year I went, I started coming in. I had a Spider-Man drawing. I had an Iron Man drawing. I just started to build up my content, and I was still like going both traditional art, and then I was still practicing my digital art. Over the last few years, it's pretty much been straight digital art, because I found that I could just move my traditional process over to the Cintiq. I didn't really need to use paper anymore. Now I'm actually going back, and I'm starting to do some more pencil stuff, just because people don't always understand the difference between the two skill sets. They think if they might see an artist who paints digital and think that person can't work in traditional medium, and vice versa. So I just want to be able to show that I can do both. So I'm kind of doing both still, but mostly what you're seeing, like that Scottie I did, the Michael Jordan, I just did a Pulp Fiction one. That's all digital stuff.
Do you still do like commissions at the conventions at all?
I tried commissions for a few shows. I saw other artists doing commissions. I'm like, man, that's actually pretty cool. Fans are asking them to draw stuff. And then I found out that I'd go to the hotel room, and after a 9-hour day standing up dealing with fans, I'm going back to the hotel room and I'm actually working, and it just wasn't as much fun anymore. So I got out of that. I don't make myself available for commissions at shows. I've done some stuff on the side. So if somebody wants something done, and they just, as long as they know they're not going to get it during the hours of the show, I can do stuff outside of that. I will do sketch covers on my own and bring those in. And if so those are already done versus having to make time over the weekend doing them.
For like comic books and stuff?
Yeah, just sketch covers. They're actually pretty cool. I like how, you can go and find a whole bunch of blank covers at one of the dealers and just pick them up for a good price, and then you just play around on them. I have a stack of them.
Okay. Yeah, I'll definitely look into that the next time I see you, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Because like that's actually a pretty hot thing right now, being more like known on social media, which is a huge platform for a lot of you artists too, which I've seen lately.
Yes.
Like you, and then like there's like Art Germ and a bunch of other comic book artists out there who
Yeah.
are utilizing social media. And now it's like a huge thing now, where digital art was something that was only for like Photoshop at one point. It's now like everyone wants to do it, and it's easier now to reach out to customers or build a fan base and to grow your brand out there.
It provides a lot more flexibility. It helps to expand your skill set, that's for sure.
And so after you did your first convention, what was the first, I guess, pop culture drawing that or print that you've done?
It's funny because when I decided to start, after that first time where I had all my sports stuff and I decided to jump in, you mentioned earlier the big tower of prints that I have, the booth size that I have. I mean, I didn't start with that. I just had a handful of prints at an artist alley table, and I wanted to do, like, I knew Jim Lee's artwork. I knew Todd McFarlane's artwork. That was comic book style art was always what I wanted to do. And I really thought I could just do that. I thought I could just jump in and say, well, I know how to draw. Let me just do some comic book style stuff. And so those were my first prints. That's what I first showed. And there was a Captain America one, a Daredevil one. I mean, it was, when I look back at it now, it's kind of silly that I thought I could just jump in and compete with other artists who had been doing this all their lives for 20, 25 years going at it. And I think I could just show up and come up with this artwork. It didn't really work the way I wanted it to at first. I mean, it was okay, and I got a decent response, enough of a response to keep going. And then I had a great experience. I did a Breaking Bad print. I did an Indiana Jones print. I started mixing it up. I still had that comic book style stuff, but then I started mixing in a few other things. So I did an Indiana Jones one, for example. And I was at a show in Ohio, in Columbus, at a wizard show. And on a Saturday morning, I saw Neal Adams was kind of getting himself ready. And I didn't know who he was. I knew who he was, but I had never talked to him. I didn't know his personality, nothing. So I just went up to him and I introduced myself. I said, I'm Tony Santiago. I'm an artist here. I just wanted to say hi and tell you I admire your work. And he looks at me. He's like, yeah, so where are you set up? And I said, I'm right over here. He goes, well, let's go take a look. I'm walking. So Neal Adams is going to come over and take a look at my work. And I'm like, wow, this is Neal Adams. And I'm all puffy chested thinking, this is awesome. He spent the next 10 minutes just one by one destroying every piece of artwork I had out there. I mean, just literally, he looked at a drawing and said, that's a bad drawing. And then the next one, I don't know what you were thinking there. That one, that's not good. What is that? That's not good. I mean, deflating, like popping every balloon I had. And then he came to the Indiana Jones one, and he looks at it, he goes, that one's okay. And then he just kept on going. And then afterwards, he's like, what is it you're trying to do here? Like, who are you trying to be? You're trying to do this style of artwork, and it doesn't work. That's not who you are. That's not what you do. This is a guy who has never seen me, doesn't know me, this is the first time he's laying eyes on my work, and he's tearing it apart. And he looked at that Indiana Jones one and he said, that one is what you want to build on. Look at what you're doing there. and figure out how to make that work better for you and start working on that. That's your style there, not this other stuff you're trying to do. That took that feedback took a couple months to digest. I mean, that really hit. It was a gut punch at the time, because here I am thinking, this is great. I'm about to fulfill my dream of being a comic book artist and do all this other stuff. And this professional artist, this legendary artist, just told me I stunk. So I had to kind of come back to the proverbial drawing board and figure some things out. And then that's when I really started doing the fan art that you see now. I went to another Wizard show probably a year later or so, maybe 6 months later, I don't know when. And Chris Hemsworth was going to be there. It was in Sacramento, and Chris Hemsworth was going to be there. I'm like, let me draw Thor from the Avengers. I had some more time left before getting on a plane, so I said, let me work on a Loki. So I had this Thor and Loki, which I still sell today. And when I went to the show, the response I got from that was so overwhelming. Like, I couldn't believe how excited people were to see those characters depicted on paper like that. It never occurred to me that nobody else really had that. And I guess, the likenesses were good enough. I had been doing sports art for years, so I was pretty good at getting likenesses down at the time. So it just worked out, and it just kind of took off from there. I said, now since I have Thor, I got to do Captain America. With Cap, I got to do Iron Man, and it's kind of blossomed from there.
Man, that is crazy. From to hear that from Neal Adams, because I've met Neal Adams once, and the way how he carries himself, I'm not saying he's stuck up or anything, but he carries that kind of he knows his art is good. And
well, just to to close off the loop on that story, this past year in 19, I saw him at a show, and we were right across from each other, and it wasn't. It wasn't that busy. It was a decent show. I think it might have been Portland, but it wasn't terribly busy at the time. If you've seen Neal Adams set up, he's got the big 4 or 5 tables.
Yeah.
He's really deep into his setup. So he's sitting over there, and because we weren't that busy, he looks over, he's like, hey, and he gives me a thumbs up. He's like, good work. I'm like, wow, did he just say good work to me? And I was like, you know what? Hell with it. I'm going to walk over there. It's not busy. I'm going to go reintroduce myself to this guy at the risk of being ripped apart again. I sat down with him and I told him exactly what I just told you. I recalled the story, and he was like, and he said, look at you. He goes, you're still doing it. You didn't quit. You've gotten so much better. Your work is great. And shook my hand. It was actually a really warm and nice interaction with him. And it kind of it closed off that whole thing really nicely. It is, to me, a very important moment for me to have received that experience.
I think any artist or content creator, we do have to experience that kind of I guess you could say humbleness, or some sort of reality check when we think we're either too good or too overconfident, because there are, like you said, there's people with so much experience in whatever field we're in, whether it's digital art or drawings or even podcasting, and to hear your experience. Again, I've met Neal Adams before, and it's not like he's mean or anything, but his artwork speaks for itself. He's created so many covers and stories, and his artwork stands out when it comes to comic book characters. But for you, I think it's amazing to see how it's like a total 180 with him. He destroyed your artwork, and then now he recognizes your artwork.
Yeah, definitely. And I think, like what you said, a lot of artists, creatives, they got to hear that honest feedback, because quite frankly, we don't get it. I'm not going to get it from family members. They're all going to say they like my work or they love my work. I'm not going to get it. It's rare to get an honest feedback from a professional artist, of that caliber, especially somebody who's been around and who really isn't going to mince words. That was an old school beatdown he gave me, and it worked. It propelled me into doing what I'm doing now, and I haven't looked back.
I wanted to ask you, how you draw your characters, like MCU versions of Thor and Loki, because your drawings of their likeness is so close to who they really are. Do you just draw it freehand, or do you look at a picture of them?
No, I have to use reference. I'm not. It'd be nice to be able to just put it there and or go from memory and just come up with that stuff. No, because I'm reliant on the likeness. It's got to look like Chris Evans, or it's got to look like, Gal Gadot, whoever I'm working on. I have to use the reference, and it's just after that. I mean, it's just practice, just constant working at it. My influence has changed from, Jim Lee and Todd McFarlane to someone like a Drew Struzan, who's doing, the Raiders of the Lost Ark posters and the Star Wars posters. When you see his work and you see his likenesses, that's kind of the goal for me, is to be on that level, or at least be mentioned, among the artists at shows, that like, this guy's he nails the likenesses as well as anyone.
I've seen some of your pictures on Instagram too, like you meeting the celebrities and all of them. And when they see your artwork, how is their reaction to seeing your prints?
Sometimes it's some of those photos are the photo ops. So you've done photo ops before, right? So
yes,
they go so fast. It's hard to get a decent interaction. A nice one was I did the Supernatural convention here in Chicago, and I'm a fan of Supernatural, right? So I'm like, man, I got Dean and Sam and Kat, I got them all here. I went and got in line for a photo op, and I don't know how familiar you are with that show. The audience demographic is pretty much, it's all female, and it's probably in the age range of 15 to 17. and then it's funny because the demographic goes from female 15 to 17 to female 50 and over. So the whole line, when I go downstairs I'm getting ready to do this photo op, and I'm the only guy in the line, and it's a long line, and the environment, it's a very rock star environment. They got the rock music going. It's loud. The guys are kind of grooving and dancing a little bit as girls come by and take their pictures and move them along. And then the next group of girls come by. And then when it came up to me, I swear the only thing missing when I showed up was the record scratch that kind of stopped the room. They looked at me like, who's the old guy? It was pretty funny. But they were really nice. I showed the drawing, and they were like, who did this? You know the artist who did this? And I said, yeah, I'm the artist. They're like, no way, that's unbelievable. And they kept a couple of the pieces. They gave me a nice picture. It was a good time. So sometimes the experiences are like that. Most of the time they're pretty quick, and they're like, oh, this is really nice, and then they just kind of move me along.
Okay, so you've never had like a longer interaction besides just the quick photo op with them then?
I did a Heroes and Villains. I don't know if it wasn't Heroes and Villains at the time. It was still Walker Stalker, and Stephen Amell was there. And he wasn't Stephen Amell yet. I think Arrow just finished the first season, and not a lot of people had seen it yet. So I did my Arrow, which I don't know if you've seen it, but it's on black. It kind of matches the Flash drawing. I had that there, and I was kind of fumbling around, and I hear a voice. He goes, this is a great drawing. I've signed a bunch of them this weekend. And I look over, and it's Stephen Amell. I'm like, whoa, hey, how's it going? He's like, hi, how's it going? My name's Stephen. He was just walking the show floor, and he stopped for a few moments and complimented the work, and I complimented his work on the show, and we had a handshake and a photo. It was actually really nice. That was pretty cool. And Manu Bennett's done that as well. I mean, I've had a few. Michael Rooker stopped by and has said some cool things.
Yeah, Stephen Amell is like very different in person compared to how he is in the show. Like, he's so quiet. Like, when I met him, he was just so quiet. He was really polite, but man, his energy was very different.
Manu Bennett, he came by. He was just walking the show floor, and he stopped by my booth, and I had this Deathstroke print there, and he's like, oh, that's pretty cool, Deathstroke. I was like, yeah. And he like, you want me to go behind the booth and we'll get a picture? I was like, yeah, absolutely. And he came around to my side of the table in the booth, and looking out, it was just a crowd of girls just that were following him around. I was like, geez, that's what this guy's life is like. And then he takes the picture, and I look at the picture. I look at that picture today. I'm like, oh, this guy, he knows how to pose and everything. And I look at him like, we're not even the same. This is what you're supposed to look like, I guess, when you take a picture, because it doesn't. I don't like to take pictures next to these people. They the camera loves them very much.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, because even like with the photo-ops, I take a look at my photo-ops that I bought. I'm like, damn, no wonder they're like at this spot. Like even just taking simple pictures, they stand out.
I know, I know. They got their poses down right. It's perfect.
Have you thought about like doing other style of art like manga or anime too?
Every show I go to, I'm asked. I even think. I mean, there's a lot of conventions that are strictly like anime conventions, and I know that the fans there are just rabid for it. The only thing that prevents me is I don't know the material. I'm not tuned into that world. My daughter, she's into anime. Like I wouldn't know where to begin. And looking at that artwork, I haven't, because it's animated work. Like one of the things I won't do is like I don't have any Pixar stuff. When I saw those the How to Train Your Dragon movies, I mean, to me, those would be so much fun to draw, just the character with his dragon and, have a series of 4 or 5 of those. The reality is they've already been drawn, and I'm not going to draw it any better than what they've already been done. Whenever there's an animated character, whether it's a Pixar character or somebody, a character in anime, a Dragon Ball Z character or anything like that, I wouldn't even know how to change anything to apply my own spin on it. At least to the point where it's going to improve what's already been done.
Right, to make it not look like it's just a copy and paste of
what
it is.
I would just be drawing someone else's drawing. That's what I don't want to do. So I don't have, Disney characters and those kinds of things going on. So even if I was into anime and I knew that world, I don't know if I would know how to apply my style of artwork towards it to make it my own.
I never thought of it that way because I'm not a big anime fan, but I do like some of the mainstream stuff. Mm-hmm. And the buddy that I mentioned earlier in this episode, he draws anime too, but he doesn't really like do it freehand. He does it by looking at the photo and then he applies his own style to it. But yeah, I think it's with anime it's a bit different because like a lot of fans who are big anime fans, even if you draw it like the same way or add a little spin to it, fans will freak out for it.
Yes.
I think Jim Lee did one. He did one of Goku. And it was a really different take on Goku because he had like this Superman kind of look to him too. Like he has Goku landing down like an Iron Man landing. But the way how he drew Goku though, it's very different from like how the anime looks. It definitely had like a more comic book style to it.
Was it not well received?
I think it was received pretty well. He showed it on Facebook. I think it was a few years ago. Okay. Yeah, like I shared it on Facebook to my friends. I'm like, dude, if Jim Lee does like a Dragon Ball Z comic book, I'm buying it.
Well, I mean, if Jim Lee does anything, you're gonna buy it. I mean, that guy, he's got his. I mean, he's got it down. He can apply his style to. He knows how. He has such a definitive style that he just applies that to whatever the subject matter is, and I can't think offhand of any specific examples, but I've seen some where they're just out of control, like they're just amazing, like, oh my god, this is a Jim Lee version of this. And then I've seen some where it's like, I mean, this is nice, but the real actual version I would still prefer, so it doesn't always match when an artist takes a character that is done so often in a one style and then he tries to apply his own style. I know that some of these artists, when they do anime, the artists that I've seen try what I'm thinking of, they take the characters and they turn them into real characters, right? It's like their version of a real person, like bring them into the real world. Now, I don't know if it works or not because I don't know. I'm not familiar with those characters themselves, so I never know. Like to me, it's like, oh, that looks like a good drawing, but maybe somebody who knows that character really well is like, that's not the character I love. I don't want him looking like that. So right. I pretty much stay away from it.
Okay, so that makes a lot of sense then.
And that's the same thing that holds true with video game characters as well. I get that a lot too. People will come up and ask me if I have, a character from Halo or one of these.
Oh, like Master Chief or something?
Yeah, stuff like that. And because I don't know the characters, I'll look at research for reference, but there's so many different versions of, I don't even know which is the right one.
Yeah, because everyone, like there's like a consistent look, but everyone has like a slight detail change to the character or something.
Yeah, and then if I see one that I like, oh, that's it, that's the one. My son will be like, that's Master Chief, that's the guy right there. And I'm like, but the image I'm looking at is so badass, I can't improve on that. Why doesn't somebody just buy that? I'll just direct them to that guy because that one deserves to be bought. I'm not going to try and compete with that. So I just stick with I stay in my lane, I guess.
It is true too, because like you want to do something that you're familiar with. I mean, it's like a huge gamble too, right? To do like an art style that you're not familiar with, and then just trying to put your spin on it. And you don't know how it's going to be perceived because then now you're just like, it's either you wasted time doing it, you could have done something that you were already good at from the start.
Yeah. Yeah, the style itself isn't what changes. Yeah, the subject matter is what I'm looking at. So if, there's drawings that I've done where I am just so excited about doing them. Like there was and I get all caught up because for the most part I draw the characters and the shows and movies that I enjoy. I try not to let the marketplace dictate it too much. The reason why I drew the Flash at that time was because I was watching the Flash and I thought it was really cool, and so I wanted to draw it. When I get all caught up in a character or a show, I'm like, oh, I gotta draw this. This is awesome. And if it hits, it hits. If not, like I was marathoning 24. Have you ever seen 24?
Yeah, I had an aunt that loved Jack Bauer. She named her dog Jack Bauer.
Yes. So I was all caught up, and I'm like, I need to draw Jack Bauer. There was something about me. I was like, I have to draw Jack Bauer, and I did, and I was so happy with it. And nobody bought it. They're like, why do you have a Jack Bauer? And it's like, and my wife, my friends are like, why are you drawing Jack Bauer? And I'm like, because no one's got it. My whole thought process was people are going to walk by my booth and they're going to be like, is that Jack Bauer? And then they're going to stop and see what else I have. Because it's like, if he's got Jack Bauer, what else might he have? And that happened a little bit, but I eventually stopped bringing it because it wasn't selling. Until Kiefer Sutherland started going to shows. I got a cool picture of Kiefer Sutherland holding my Jack Bauer print and shaking my hand. I was able to give him a Jack Bauer print finally. So it all worked out.
Next month in May, Motor City was supposed to happen, but they canceled it. I think Jack Bauer was or the actor, he was slated to show up.
That's right. He's going to be there. And I was actually thinking about doing a Young Guns piece, and I just kind of tabled it because the show got postponed.
Yeah, I don't know. That sucks with all these conventions. Like, I try not to go to too many because of budgeting, but man, I feel so bad for like guys like you and all these artists who depend on the conventions to go to, because like that's how you get most of your income as being an artist, through these conventions. And with this pandemic affecting everyone, man, it's crazy.
Yeah, it's a crazy experience for sure. And you're right. I mean, I'm doing, 25, maybe 28. I don't know if I've ever done 30, but at least 25 to 30 shows a year. It's a lot of traveling. It's a lot of work, and it's exhausting, but it's worth it. It's a great time. It's a great opportunity to meet fans, to network. The environment is really electric when it's a really good show. I mean, you've experienced good shows, and it's just a lot of fun. It's as much fun as the fans are having, as much fun as you're having walking around, seeing everything. So am I. I love seeing that stuff. I love walking around, and I love getting there early because I'm a vendor. I can show up an hour early before everybody else, and I walk around. I look at everything, and I'm like, man, this is great artwork, or cool T-shirts, things like that. So I definitely miss it, and not just the income part of it, but the energy part of it. It's sad, but I'm just looking forward to when it kicks off again, and I'm hoping that when we're back at it, the excitement will still be there and people will just be ready to go all over again, like it's brand new.
I think when everything reopens up, I think people are going to go ballistic, even like with bars or fast, like even like going inside a fast food restaurant, like people are going to go crazy. And I can only imagine like conventions, like it's going to be even more hectic than it's been before. Cause like, I'm not saying like all cons are unorganized, but when there's like a rush of people at conventions, it gets so crazy. So I can only imagine like when next year's conventions, when hopefully by the time when this stuff is done, it's going to be ballistic.
Yeah. And I've already pretty much put it in my head that nothing's going to happen this year. I mean, I know some of the shows they're saying they're postponed until, June. I mean, San Diego, canceled today.
Yeah, they announced that earlier today. And that was very shocking.
That's not till July. I mean, but
I wasn't really surprised either, because I think they turned that convention center to like a homeless shelter too.
Yeah.
I think that's what it was.
I mean, that's the one show I've never done, but I mean that's the show, and that's a show in July, and I'm scheduled for an Indiana show in June, and here I'm thinking like, wait a minute, I mean, is that really realistic? So it's kind of got people like myself a little bit off balance because even if they do have it, what's it going to be like? Because nothing's really will have changed by then, and I don't know if people are going to be excited to be mingling among thousands of other people all at the same time. I don't know how well that environment would be received. The other one is like that's like San Diego is New York. That's my Super Bowl. That's the show in October. And just like you said, the Javits Center is a hospital right now. It's hard for me to picture just a few months later convention goers, for Comic-Con.
With like social distancing and like people being scared for their health and stuff, I think it is good that they are like postponing these cons because like everyone is so close, and
Oh yeah.
I think it is good that they're taking precaution, but it is surprising though, man, because like again with San Diego being the biggest con, even New York being close to it too. Those are the ones where so many announcements get made when it comes to like the movies and comic books.
Yes.
So like
yes.
it's definitely something like a lot of fans are probably upset about, and like even not just that, like comic book vendors and stuff, like they've stopped, like Diamond Distribution stopped selling books. A lot of stuff are going like digital now, but not like a lot of the main continuity. So it's really like taking a hit with, especially with comic books, for sure.
Yeah, I don't know. I'd be curious to know like what vendors, what companies are so reliant on the Comic-Con incomes that they can't survive if it doesn't, there's a lot of independent publishers that I think rely on getting the word out and selling books at these shows. The internet's a big place. I don't know how easy it is to make up that income online. The shows, I mean, I'm selling a few things online, but for the most part, the income from the shows is pretty much everyone's main source. And to make up that lost revenue has got to be tough for some of these companies. So I think it's going to definitely look a lot different when it does come back. There's probably going to be a few vendors or artists and publishers that weren't able to sustain, at least for a little while.
Has it been for your online shop? Has there been a change at all? If you don't mind, if I ask.
I mean, the income is definitely a lot different. I sell a few prints, over the course of the week. I'll sell stuff. I mean, it's all up to me to manage my exposure, my presence. I'm not the most savvy marketer online. I rely really on that face-to-face interaction that you've experienced as well with other artists and at shows. I mean, there's no experience like that. Going online is just not gonna give you the same kind of feel. So a lot of my stuff, I think, are people that have seen, the people that buy from me online already know who I am. So they've seen me at shows. And maybe they were looking forward to going to a show that's been canceled or postponed, and they managed to go online and look up their favorite artists anyway and see what's new, and based on previous experiences will say, I like this guy's work, so I'm going to go ahead and buy it. So I think I get a lot of that. I do a little bit of advertising on Instagram and Facebook. I'm kind of just spending time generating content, just keeping my skills uptight and being ready to go when the next show comes up.
Yeah, I think that's really the best thing to do for a lot of content creators, like during this time, just quarantine, just to hone your skills still. Because I know like a lot of people are like taking this time to really just relax from like work and stuff. So,
Sure.
but for me, man, I've been like just working nonstop with this podcasting stuff because like this is honestly perfect opportunity for content creators like us to just use this time that's not distracting us to keep up with our skills and to keep up with our content.
Now, is this something you do full time as well? Is this like something that you spend a lot of time on?
Well, the thing is, like, I started podcasting about like 2 or 3 years ago, and then I took a break because I was with a group. And then the one I'm doing now with Spoiler Force is all on my own. I'm independent right now.
Sure.
So I'm working a full-time job as well as doing this, and with my job being quote unquote non-essential now, I've been able to put a lot more time into this podcasting stuff. But I am reliant on my actual income with my other job, with my real job. But yeah, I've been doing this for like a year now, and it's something that I'm learning along the way too. Just like when it comes to booking guests
Hmm.
or trying to find content to even just talk about, or
Hmm.
trying to be up to date. It's something that I could have just taken this month of just relaxing, but I was like, you know what, I'm not gonna do that. I have to be up and ready because you don't know what's gonna be the hot thing to talk about, or you don't know who's
Yeah.
gonna be able to be free on to be booked for a guest spot. So I was just like, I'm just gonna do this. I'm just gonna keep on with this. And it's the same thing with how you're honing your skills still. You never know. Like even during this quarantine, man, you might
Hmm.
be able to pull out like a project that goes viral or something.
Right. You're exactly right. You never know. Somebody could see something I post, and like when I do something, for example, the Michael Jordan I just posted on Instagram. I tag the Chicago Bulls. I never know. There's maybe a 1 in a million shot that somebody from the Bulls organization looks at it and is like, "Hey, man, this guy's pretty good. Let's give him a call and see what his availability is. We have some projects for next year's season he might be interested in." I do know 100% that I won't get that phone call if my stuff's not out there. I might as well put it out there, right? I might as well keep going and keep trying because you never know who's going to see it. For someone like yourself, I mean, just keep generating content. Even if you're doing a podcast where you do 30 minutes on just your take on, the new episode of whatever, it's content, right? You want to be out there. You never know who's listening.
I've noticed that you do like a lot of collaborations when it comes to like it's almost like a movie poster, right? With your Lord of the
Hmm.
Rings set,
Yeah.
and stuff like that. How did that come about? Like you just decided to just do a huge collage of these characters together?
The compilations,
Yeah.
that one that came about. I'm a big uh, I'm a big Fast and Furious guy. I love that those movies. And Paul Walker passed, and I was crushed. I was like, oh man, I couldn't believe it. And then I was watching one of the Fast and Furious, maybe 6 or 7, I can't remember. I was just like, man, I just want to put these characters down on paper. I just want to do it. I need to do it. I had that feeling. So I did that, and then I thought it actually looked pretty cool. It's a lot more time consuming than doing an individual character, but it came out pretty neat, and people responded well to it. And then I was I was watching Sons of Anarchy at the time as well. I was like, oh, this is a perfect one. It's a gang. It's an actual gang. I'll just draw these guys. I did that, and it just kind of grew from there. When people see the compilation, they start to ask, well, what about this show? Do you have this show? Do you have that show? I got tired of saying no to some of them, so I'm like, well, I guess I'm going to watch Supernatural and see what this show's about. And then I did one of those, and it just kind of has blossomed from there. And I've done quite a few of them now, and I'm working on one. I revisited Point Break the other night with my with my son, and I'm like, no one's got any Point Break art, not that I've seen. So I'm going to do a Point Break just to do it, just to have it and see what happens.
So one of the fans that I have here
Mm-hmm.
wants to know, what is your favorite art that you've drawn? So pretty much what you have. Which one has been your favorite?
Like, I like my Captain America stuff. I don't know if you've seen it, but I just did a few pencil drawings, and one of them's a Captain America one, and I look at that one, and I really like that one a lot. I think I know what I had to put into it to make that happen, and it really came out well, and I just think that's a solid piece. And I don't. It's hard for me to look at my own stuff and feel all that jazzed about it. I kind of do something and move on. But that Captain America one I do like a lot.
And to add on to that too, I have one of your Captain America and Iron Man prints too. It
Oh,
was like
okay.
the year like Civil War was released, and I know
Nice.
I know everyone was buying that too because like I was like, I have to get it because it was just like the trailer was just released on during Super Bowl, and like
Yep.
all that hype too. And I was like, I have to get it, and so I got the maskless Steve Rogers and the maskless Iron. Oh no, not the maskless one. I got the Steve Rogers with the helmet and then the Iron Man uh, with the suit. I got that one. So
Okay. Okay.
I had to get those ones. But I think I did see your pencil drawing. It was the Steve Rogers one. I think you had like a couple with it too. Like you did like the Captain Marvel and Wonder
Well,
Woman.
I have a Wonder Woman, Spider Man, and Tony Stark.
Oh, okay, yeah, that's right. Okay, again, like my buddy, he draws portraits. He loves like seeing your pencil stuff. So when I showed him
Good.
that stuff, he's like he wants to do something similar. I think his next project, is close to something like that because he does like compilations too, like how you have your Fast and Furious
Okay.
stuff.
Yeah, yeah.
He recently did one with it's an old Chinese film. It's called The Flirting Scholar with Stephen Chow, and
Okay.
he did like a compilation of that of just the characters' faces. So
Does he
like,
have it posted somewhere?
yeah, I can definitely send you the link. Once we get
Yeah,
done with the
definitely.
podcast, he can definitely take a look at his art. The thing is, like, he's been doing art for a while, but he's
Hmm.
finally now posting it up on social media, which I was so upset with him when he finally did. I'm like, it took you this long just to realize that you were good.
Yeah, it takes a little. It could take a while, man. I personally, it's still there's I look at my stuff and there are still pieces that I sell or that I show that I did a couple of years ago that I think to myself, man, I would like to take that one back, but it's out here now. I might as well keep it out, and that always exists where you're just like not always 100% into everything that you've done, and to show it to show your work like that, especially when you're not used to it and you don't know what kind of criticism is going to come back off of it. It's that first step's a big one sometimes. If your friend has gotten past that, good for him, but it sometimes takes a while to get there.
You ever get the I guess it's common with like a lot of content creators too, like where you release a one of your projects or your art that you didn't think would receive well and it did, versus like the other ones where you thought it would be good and then it didn't receive well.
Well, I mean, I thought everyone loved Jack Bauer. I was wrong on that one. The uh, something that I didn't know, like a Harley Quinn, stuff like that. Like you said, the Harley Quinn, and I've done a couple Harley Quinn versions. I didn't know that the Suicide Squad Harley Quinn was going to be as popular as it was. I mean, I did it just because it was a character, and I didn't have a lot of female characters on my board. So, all right, Suicide Squad's out. Let's see what. And the movie you know, wasn't the greatest, but okay, let's see. And that ended up being really popular. That character, and it still is. It's one of those that doesn't really matter. Like Deadpool, doesn't matter if there's a movie out or not. It's just always popular. So that's probably the one that surprised me the most I could think of offhand.
With Margot Robbie's like depiction of that character too, everyone, a lot of females love her like her
Yeah,
portrayal of the character, and she's
yeah, yeah.
definitely like the Deadpool of DC now.
Right, right. And I didn't see. I mean, did you see Birds of Prey? I haven't seen it.
I saw it on opening weekend. My friend my friend Kendra, she really wanted to go, so I took her and we watched during like a opening weekend.
Uh-huh.
I thought it was, without trying to be like comparing it to comic books, I thought it was okay, but
Is it entertaining? Am I going to be entertained by it?
I don't know. Honestly, I think like a lot of females enjoyed the movie more because like for me, I
Really?
thought there was like aspects of it where it could have been better, but
Okay.
overall it's watchable. But like man, I was, because I read the comic books too, so I'm like I was so nitpicky. I was trying not to be, but I was. I'm just like, man, if Margot Robbie definitely saved the movie for sure.
See, I go into these movies blissfully unaware because I'm no longer. I was a comic book reader back in the late 80s, maybe early 90s, and mostly yeah, like late 80s, 90s. Um, and then I just got out of it. I just stopped. There was just so much to keep up with, and some of the stores I would go to started folding up, so it was harder to get the books. I was on a couple of pull lists, and then that store closed. I'm like, well, forget it now. I don't have time. And so now I go into these movies, like I don't know the origin of Thanos, or I don't know the origin of Harley Quinn. So I don't have any material to refer to. Whatever the movie tells me, I just believe that's how it is. But some of the hardcore comic lovers, they're like, oh, it's not like that at all. That character is they missed the boat on that one. I'm like, oof, and it kind of and it sometimes ruins the movie, right, for them. Like, well, I can't even watch this anymore because it's not how it was supposed to be. It's like, geez. So I'm glad sometimes I don't have that that
Yeah,
reference.
I try not to be like, with the first or with Suicide Squad when I first watched it, I enjoyed it.
Uh
And
huh.
then like after like the second and third viewing, I was like, damn, I actually like this. Like, so like my thoughts of it changed. Like I did no comparisons to the books because I love the Suicide Squad books too. So but I did no
Okay.
comparisons. I was like, you know what, let Will Smith be Deadshot, and then I think if anything, my only complaint was the fact that he was too Will Smith as Deadshot. You know, he wasn't Floyd Lawton to me. He was still Will Smith. But other than that, I thought when I first viewed it, I was like, you know, it's not too bad. I liked it. And then the second and third viewing, I'm like, oh man, I like
Yeah,
this.
what's so funny is that I feel the same way. Like the first time I saw it, I was like, oh, this is pretty interesting with the music and the editing. I was like, it's kind of a mess, but I'm sort of having a good time. And then I tried giving it a couple more views. I'm like, yeah, no, probably not. It's probably a one time viewing. Just remember it however I remember it. But what's funny about what you said is if I was to read a Suicide Squad book now, which I've never even seen one word of one, and I read that Deadshot character in the comics, I'd be like, this guy's nothing like Will Smith.
Yeah.
I'm expecting that character now to be like Will Smith just because of the movie, and I guess it's not the case.
But I think like a lot of comic books are slowly doing that too. Like Aquaman's a good example.
Oh, they're mirroring the movie content?
Yeah, like they're making Aquaman look more like Momoa now. Like not with the dark hair, but now he's got like the bulky build, the long beard, the long hair.
Yeah.
They're slowly adding tattoos. I'm like, okay, so they're slowly transitioning him to look more like Momoa now instead of the traditional Aquaman.
Hey man, some of the movie casting, it's pretty. I mean, it's pretty good. I think that's a great casting. I really like Momoa as Aquaman.
Yeah, like I saw the one you did too, like his just the Batman vs Superman one with the silver armor and stuff like that, holding the trident. Yeah, that one was actually I like that look a lot more than the Aquaman look that he had.
Yeah, that orange gold.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did that one for there was a show that I believe he was at. Yeah, he was there. It was a show in San Antonio, if not last year, the year before. I can't remember. And I did they asked me to do artwork for the badge. And I told them, I'm like, I have Momoa's Aquaman from Justice League already good to go. You can have that artwork and drop it on the badge. Like, no, we want you to do an original one for our show. And it was that gold one, that orange one. And that thing was such a pain to do that costume. I was avoiding doing it simply because of the costume.
Was it just like the minor details that it had?
Oh my gosh. And I'm the worst because I can't not do it. I get all caught up in it. I've seen some artists that just know how to render. They don't put in every detail. They just render the shape and using color and shading. It just works beautifully. Like, oh, that's awesome. Why can't I do that?
Yeah, it kind of has like that scaly kind of armor look to it. Yeah,
it scales. I'm like, what the hell am I doing? And I'm like, for hours going blind on drawing these scales.
Yeah, I could definitely imagine how frustrating that is. Yeah. Like if I hear like a little nick or something that's out of place, that kind of similar to how you are with the minor details of just the drawing, and it gets to you. You try to find ways to adjust it or get rid of it. And then sometimes it gets frustrating because like it doesn't, when you take it out, it's not good, and then you put it back, it's still irritating.
Oh yeah, and then for me, if I do a drawing and I'm like, after, okay, it's done, I move on, and then I see it again, I'm like, oh no, there's a flaw in this. I didn't catch it. That's all I see from now on. And then I'm like holding my breath, like, please, when someone who buys this, don't come back because you saw the flaw. Although I would totally understand if you brought it back because it's such a flaw, you know. And it never happens. That's just something in my head, but it happens a lot with me, with nitpicking all my stuff.
I do have one more of the fan questions here.
Sure.
They wanted to know what's the general timeline of you doing one of your projects? Not so much the compilation ones, but just like the individual characters. How long does that usually take you?
That varies. I mean, those vary by the project. So I get this question a lot at shows. I've never timed myself. I know some artists are pretty good at saying this took me, 30 hours or this took me 100 hours. I mean, I don't even know how to count that because I don't work, 4 or 5 hours at a time. I work sometimes, if I'm on a busy day or bouncing around running errands, and, I might work in 20-minute chunks. I'm not going to stop and start a clock every time for that. So I guess I tell people anywhere from 15 to 25 hours maybe on a piece, like the Captain America you have, somewhere in that range for something like that. The flash drawing where it's just his profile on black, and you said there was a reverse flash and a zoom to match. those don't take 15 hours. Those take a lot less because there's just not as much detail. And I'm just drawing the portrait. And the idea with those is to render them quickly so that I can kind of capture that energy in that image and just move on from it. So it varies. But I usually tell people anywhere 15, 25 hours on a piece.
Yes, that's a good timeline, I guess, for just any individual project, because you don't want to rush it either.
I don't do anything rushed. I'm just not fast. I know some artists are pretty fast, and I see. I'll go on YouTube or even on Instagram, and you'll see some of the artists at work. I'm amazed by how quickly some people can just move along. Even a Jim Lee, if you look at a Jim Lee demo where he does a sketch, it's like, geez, he's just drawing fast. He's just moving. It's his muscle memory, and it just seems to just show up on the paper so quickly. Unfortunately, I'm not at that level. It's never really been my strong suit. I've always kind of taken my time and focused in on those details, and hopefully it shows in the final product.
Just to add on to that too with Jim Lee, I think I saw this on one of the DC shows where they gave him a 1 minute time limit to draw Batman.
And didn't he?
Oh my God! The way how he did it with the Sharpie, it was like just paint strokes, and he did it so easily. I'm like, and you were ridiculous. Talking about muscle memory, man. This guy's repped Batman so many times, and he did it so easily.
He's done it so many times.
It's just impressive. He just drew the face with the cowl on a profile view, and he did it so easily. I'm just like, how is that even humanly possible?
There's so many things about every individual process. Some of these artists that I just didn't know. I think I said before, I'm not really an educated artist. There's a lot of things I just don't know. And I was next to an artist at a show, and he was doing commissions and sketch covers, and he's a pro, so he's rocking. He's killing it. Geez, there's a line of people, and I look down. I'm like, he starts a drawing, and 20 minutes later, it's done. And he's just, I couldn't believe it. He was a machine. And I finally went up. He was next to me. I was an artist out, and he was next to me. And I went up to him. I was like, how is it? I would be stuck on the pose. I would be, if somebody said, here, draw Spider-Man for me, I'd be spending an hour trying to figure out, how do I want to draw Spider-Man? Is he going to be, is he going to be hanging upside down, or is he going to be in an action pose, or is he going to be doing a smart alecky thumbs up? I don't know what I'm going to do. And he said, there is no thought process to the pose. I just do the same. I have 5 poses, and I just rotate them out, and I just keep drawing them over and over again. It's it never occurred to me to do that. I'm thinking each one has to be this individual space. No, we don't have time to do that. This is the amount of money I'm making. I'm trying to collect these amount of commissions. I got to keep things moving. I'm a professional, and things have to move pretty quickly. That was one of the first times I realized, this is a profession. This is a job. It looks fun, and it looks creative, and it looks like a blast, but these are professional artists who make money doing this, and they have to have a process that allows them to do that efficiently and, for the most part, quickly in that environment. And these are also guys who spend, guys like Jim Lee. He's on Mount Rushmore, but all of these artists who are creating pages for these books, they don't have all day to do one panel. They have to render out 2 pages sometimes in a day. I don't know what the Marvel rate, the rate is right now, how quickly they have to go, but I know it's at least a page a day that they have to be able to create that work. They learn how to draw fast, and I just never was in that environment. It was never something I had to learn or do, so this is where I'm at now.
Man, Tony, I've had so much fun having you on the podcast, man. This has been a blast for me. I love that your experiences are amazing to share with fans and stuff like this. I appreciate that so much.
Yeah, man, anytime.
Did you have any plugs or any shout-outs you'd like to do before we wrap up?
My website is TonySantiagoArt.com. I am running a 20% off sale. Probably it's running to the end of April, but it's probably going to be continuing for the foreseeable future. There's a code on there that you enter at the checkout. That's TonySantiagoArt.com. And on Instagram and Facebook, I'm at Tony Santiago Art.
For the listeners, I'll have all the information in the descriptions for the YouTube, SoundCloud, and Apple Podcast stuff. So definitely check out Tony's artwork and all his projects, and follow him on social media stuff. Again, thank you so much for being on the podcast, man. I've had a blast, and I'll definitely once this is all edited and uploaded, I'll tag you for sure, and that way you can share this
Sure.
with your followers as well.
That'd be great. I had a good time, and anytime you want to just talk shop or movies or TV, anything, give me a call. I'll be happy to spend some time with you.
Oh, for sure. I'll definitely reach out to you. Thank you for the offer, man. So this is Spoiler Force episode 51, you guys. This has been a great episode. Have a good evening, and yeah, stay safe, stay clean, wash your hands. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure to follow, like, share, subscribe, and rate Spoiler Force Podcast. For comments, questions, or criticism, you can email me at rickyvang92@gmail.com or message me on Instagram at instagram.com/rickyvang92.